This video is about my personal paranormal experiences that include dates, disorders, and death. Have I ever been on a paranormal investigation? Sort of. A friend and I went to a cemetery and explored a cemetery when I was a teenager. He freaked me out more than being in the cemetery at night did. Because of that, I lost my interest in exploring the paranormal with anybody. Or at least anybody that's not Jason Hawes, who has the ability to stay calm even when the paranormal is happening. So the cemetery investigation was my first and last investigation. So have I ever had a near-death experience? Yes. When I was 2 or 3 years old, we went to the beach. I was playing along the shore and I got caught by the undertow. My mother was talking with my aunts and my cousins were there, but I don't remember where they were at. My brother was also there, but I don't remember where he was at. The undertow dragged me under, and I remember being able to get my head above water and scream for my mom twice, but both times she was looking the other way. I realized she didn't see me, didn't hear me, and I knew that I wasn't going to make it. Not making it when you're 2 years old, it has a very simple connotation to it. It meant that I knew I was going away and I wasn't going to see my mom again. I can't tell you anything more than I just knew I had to go away. I also knew I didn't want to go away. So I can't talk to you about a light or anything else. All I can tell you is my interpretation of that moment was that I knew that I was never going to see my mom again. I didn't know where I was going, but I just knew I was not going anywhere with her. Then I couldn't hold my breath any longer, and I started inhaling water. And the second I started inhaling water, I knew that was a bad thing. It caused me to fight again to get my head above water. But I was quickly succumbing to my circumstances. And while I was in this confused state, my mom got me and pulled me out of the water. When I was talking to my cousin about this, she was shocked that I remembered it. I asked her what she remembered, and she said my breathing was just horrible afterwards. Needless to say, everybody was a little upset and it kind of ruined the day. And yes, I have always shocked and startled my family when I talk about things that I remember prior to the age of 4, including having memories of having my diaper changed. I'm not afraid of the ocean. In fact, it's the exact opposite. I feel at complete and total peace when I sit by the ocean. So do I have any sleep disorders? Yes. The better question is, which sleep disorders do I not have? The answer, I don't have narcolepsy and I don't sleepwalk. Everything else on that circle, I have. So if I see someone talking about they were asleep and all of a sudden they woke up and somebody was hovering over their bed or something was attacking them, that is sleep paralysis. That is exactly the symptom that happens. You feel like you're in your bed and you're being attacked. And if you force yourself to recognize you're still asleep and you force yourself to wake up, that entire attack and that paralysis goes away. But you have to fight to wake yourself up, not try and fight whatever you're hallucinating. When I have nightmares, I talk in my sleep. It's not intelligible. It's like moaning, trying to escape whatever's attacking me. I have to do exercises with my legs to try and chill them out so I don't have that restless leg syndrome. I could be awake for 36 hours and it will still take me 2 hours to fall asleep. If I start snoring before I'm completely asleep, I will wake myself back up. Sleep apnea is a little bit scary because when I suddenly am just jolted awake because I can't breathe. Exploding head syndrome is the new one to me that I just discovered that I have it last year. 3 or 4 times over the past decade, I've had the sensation of something has broken, like a pipe in the attic, or just some loud bang has occurred, and I'm thinking a tree branch hit the side of the house or the roof. Nothing is there. Because this only happens when I'm in bed, I started to wonder, is this some type of a hallucination that I'm having? And sure enough, it's called exploding head syndrome. Now, here's the other odd thing about all these sleep disorders. They don't happen every night, and they don't all happen at the same time. At least that's true for me, because I have had so many different sleep disorders. When I hear people talking about being attacked while they're asleep, I'm just very cynical, and I'm just like, you're asleep, you're having a sleep disorder. Contact a doctor, don't contact a paranormal investigator. There are various apps that you can download to actually track your sleep. I recommend people do that. That is how I discovered I talk in my sleep, and when I went back and listened, I couldn't tell what I was saying, but I knew that I had had a nightmare that night. So that's how I had figured out my talking in my sleep was associated with nightmares. So how does this all relate to the paranormal? Are we more susceptible to having feelings of the paranormal because of near-death experiences or because of sleep disorders? I don't know. And I don't know if my sensitivity to my environment is normal or paranormal. I knew when I went to buy a house, I would know it was the right house, not by the price tag, not by the location, but by the feeling I got when I walked into that house. Same happens to me when I apply for a job and I go in for a job interview. After a few minutes of being in the building, I can tell if it's a comfortable place to work or if it's a negative place to work. And I don't have to meet any people to get that sensation. And I learned probably within the first 10 years of applying for jobs and doing interviews that if I'm in that interview and I don't have a good feeling about the environment, I don't take any job offer. And I've learned that by taking the job only to end up quitting a day later, 3 days later, or 3 months later. And I don't know if that's normal or paranormal. And I don't know if anybody else has that type of a sensation or vibe when they walk into a building. The next thing has happened several times in my lifetime. Once in a while, I will have a day where I'm just going about my business, minding my own business, but throughout that day, I will keep thinking about one person, and that one person will just keep popping up in my mind over and over for no reason. This doesn't happen every day, obviously, but it does happen periodically, and like I said, several times in my lifetime. The person does not have to be related to me or a person I know. It could be a celebrity, only to find out later that day, the next day, or later that week that they passed away. Again, I don't know if this is normal or paranormal. All I can tell you is it has happened about 6 or 7 times in my lifetime. It happened with 3 people that were related to me, my mother and both of my grandparents, and then it's happened a couple of times with celebrities. It's not a fortune teller psychic type of thing, because I don't recognize on that day when I'm thinking about that person, oh, they're going to die today. So again, don't know if it's normal, paranormal, cosmic connections, don't know what it is. All I can tell you is that's the experiences I've had. Do I have any other sort of feelings associated with the paranormal? Yes. Many times when I've gone into an old mansion that's been converted into a bed and breakfast or into a restaurant, I've got the feeling that the former owners are still there. It doesn't matter how that building is decorated to be welcoming, I don't feel welcomed. I always get the sense that the former owners are not happy to have all those strangers in their house. The strangest feeling or impression I ever had was when I went to Gettysburg. There are these giant rock formations that is called Devil's Den. As I sat there looking at them, I just got this overwhelming sense of hearing bullets ricocheting off of those rocks. It wasn't a sound that you could hear. I know it was more of my imagination, but it was such a realistic imagination of bullets ricocheting off of rocks. I've never been in a war zone, and the sound that I imagined I was hearing didn't sound like Hollywood sound effects. And I've never been a person accused of having a vivid imagination, but I don't have an explanation for what I felt when I was in Gettysburg. I don't consider myself a psychic, a medium, but I do know that I am sensitive to my environment, and I don't understand it. And I don't know if it's paranormal or normal. Have I experienced paranormal objects? My first experience with paranormal occurred on October 15th, 1985. The hospital called to inform my mother and I that my father had passed away. He was suffering from cancer, specifically cancer of the lymph nodes or lymphoma. But just before the phone rang, my mother and I had woken up because of a strange noise. My parents' wedding picture had fallen off the shelf onto the floor. There is no explanation for why that wedding picture fell. None of the other pictures on the shelf fell. We were not having an earthquake. The shelf was level. There's no evidence that anything knocked it off. I learned later that this is apparently called a crisis haunt. It occurs just when someone dies. I always viewed it as my father saying goodbye. My second paranormal experience, October 15th, 2016, the 31st anniversary of my father's death. Around 2:30 in the morning, my alarm clock woke me up. My alarm clock was a phone, a radio, an alarm clock, just like this one in this picture. It was not set to go off at 2:30 in the morning, but the radio came on, and I could not change the station. I could not change the volume. I could not get the radio to turn off. I know the malfunction can very easily be explained by the fact it was 32 years old, and I would agree, except for the day it happened. Had this happened on any other day, I would not have thought twice about it. But why was it happening on the anniversary of my father's death? Is it my father telling me there was something wrong with my mother? Well, I didn't want to scare my mom by calling in the middle of the night, so I waited until morning and called her. She was fine. This radio clock was one of the last things my father gave me before he died. These two experiences have always kept me interested in the paranormal. I would like to understand them better. Because these paranormal experiences happened on October 15th, I released my first video to Paranormal True or False on October 15th. If I'm going to watch paranormal videos, whether they're real or fake, I want a creepy vibe. I knew I would be doing some debunking, not as much as I do, but when I watch other debunking videos, they're just so matter of fact and sterile, it's not entertaining to me. I knew I needed creepy music to create the creepy vibe. Most music is copyrighted, but I had to find a source. As I was driving down the road to meet my friend Kathy for lunch, I remembered her husband is in the music industry and writes songs. So during lunch, I asked her if Jim would be interested in making music for this channel. She said he would and gave me his number. And that's how I ended up having a Nashville music producer and songwriter, Jim Riley. You can also hear him with the New Dillons as the person that handles all the background music for this channel. Jim was born and raised in Pennsylvania, and I was born and raised in California. Throughout the years of knowing Kathy, I knew that Jim and I had one thing in common, and that is that we both lost our fathers when we were 15. I thought the commonality ended there until this year. My mother passed away in January. Jim's mother passed away 2 months later. And it gets weirder. I don't know what the probabilities are of this happening, but these are the dates of our mother's death and my mother's birth. All three dates use the exact same 5 numbers: 0, 1, 2, 3, and 9. So now Jim and I share the exact same year when our mothers passed, but we also share the exact same 5 numbers representing the dates of our mother's passing. And then I started making this video, and I asked Jim's permission to talk about this. And then I received a text from him asking if my dad died in October too. These are the dates associated with our father's deaths and my father's birth. Every number is used except for the number 4, unlike the dates for our mothers. Those dates for our mothers is just weird to me, but obviously, me noticing it is weird to you. Even though Jim and I are 9 years apart in age, our parents were born in the 1930s. And again, only 5 numbers are used. At this point in this crazy connection, I'm just wondering if Jim and I are going to die in the same year or at the same age. And now I'm just laughing at myself because as I was doing this voiceover, I kept saying Jim and I too fast, and it came out Gemini, and I'm a Gemini. Whatever. Ugh, head thump. So what is paranormal? To me, it's anything beyond normal. It doesn't have to rise to the level of chains rattling or possessions. It can be something so unexplainable that there's no rationale to it. Science can't explain it or even categorize it. The odds and the probabilities are astronomical. I keep open-minded to anything paranormal because I know that we live in a world where we don't have all the answers, but we can ask all the questions. Thank you for watching this 1-year anniversary video.